Okay, hello everyone, and I'm going to begin this. Shall I say anything?
Yeah. Oh no, it's
No.
up to you.
So I'm going to begin this meeting with a letter from somebody. They've asked a question, so I'll read it. Tony, you said on April the 4th that your words pointing, the words you use pointing, are an attempt to illuminate that which cannot be known. Is that not just another more sophisticated expression of awareness becoming aware of itself? So I have to say, absolutely not, because as far as this is concerned, and as far as the Oxford Dictionary is concerned, the word awareness has the meaning of knowing. That's how it's seen there and interpreted. Awareness is a form of knowing. But as far as I'm concerned, awareness is a function. And in order for awareness to function, it needs something for it to be aware of. So it arises in dualism. There are two, the awareness and awareness of. So when people talk about awareness and say that in some way or other, there can be an awareness of awareness, yes, that is still two things. The awareness of something called awareness, 1, 2, or the knowing of knowing. So as far as I'm concerned, awareness or consciousness are forms of knowing and don't have any relationship to what I'm talking about when I say that I'm going to illuminate that which cannot be known. And if you watch my videos, you will see that what is illuminated is that there's nothing that can be known because there is no knower. So there is no connection between this idea of awareness being anything to do with what I'm talking about, apart from describing what happens in the dualistic story. In the dualistic story, when the child is born, it becomes, after a little while, self-aware or self-conscious. And then it enters the world of knowing. I know I am a person. I know this is a chair. I know that's the sky. And that is the dualistic experience of the individual in that what I call a dream reality. The other thing you say is, in the same way, no thing, which is an expression I use, which you often call the beloved, well, sometimes, and which I call the benevolent void. Now, if you call no thing the benevolent void, I simply don't see that at all, because there's nothing benevolent about nothing. It doesn't have any feature or a quality of any kind. The benevolent void is another something. It's something you talk about, something out there to discover. And of course, it's only benevolent and very good. Sorry, that doesn't come into my conversations at all. And certainly the sense of no thing or empty fullness doesn't even get anywhere near the idea of a benevolent void. You also talk about God. Surely no thing is another way of saying God. Well, you could argue about words forever and ever. And the problem with the word God is it's very much related to the idea of something in another position in a hierarchy, at the head of a hierarchy, which looks down on its creation that it's created, and watches what's going on and has a lot of influence in what's going on. So I never use the word God. Even the word no thing or empty fullness or the void or any of those words which I use, none of them are what I'm trying to express, none of them, because what I'm trying to express can't be known. It's unknown, unknowable. The empty fullness, all of that is unknowable. It can't be described. That's why what I communicate is not a teaching. Teaching is something that somebody thinks they know, that they can help other people know and have a better experience in their lives. This is not a teaching. This gives away nothing at all. There's nothing here for sale, as you'll discover in the next hour and a half. So that's all I wanted to say. And if somebody would like to ask a question, that would be fine.
I have Kira coming in here. I'm actually just going to let 30 people in, so I'm just going to click that admit button. And Kira, I'm going to come to you now. I think you've You're up. You should be able to speak.
Okay. Hi, Tony.
Hi.
So good to see you. I love your message. I've listened to it for years. There have been glimpses here, and so it's easy for me to believe what you're saying. I do get confused though sometimes when you talk about the me. I know that there's nothing being everything, and that there is no one, and no one is doing anything. But then at times you will say the me does this or the me is doing that. Can you elaborate more on what is happening then?
Well, that's just a description of somebody who is in the dream world. They're in the dream world of the real. So when they're born, after a little while, they contracted energy enters the body, and self-awareness and self-consciousness arise. And then the tiny child, wouldn't put this into words, becomes separate, enters a separate world, the I am world. And sometimes when I'm talking about, when I talk about me or the I or the self, I'm describing something that seems to happen in the dualistic story. That's all I'm doing. There is no me, there is no I in those terms. The I, the me, the self is just an appearance. But when I'm talking about things that seem to happen in the apparent story, only the apparent story, not the real story as the individual sees the story, then I'm just describing what seems to go on in that dualistic world. When I talk about me, as far as I'm concerned, it's the apparent me, the apparent I, the apparent self. I should use apparent almost before every word, but I won't, obviously.
And it's really nothing doing everything.
There's nothing apparently doing everything,
right?
But in the end, of course, actually, when there is no longer any query or question, there is nothing happening at all. This is nothing happening. It only appears to be happening. It's
right.
not. Nothing is real.
Right. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, Sindhu, you're coming in fast. Okay,
Hello,
Sindhu, there you go. Yeah.
Hello, Tony.
Uh-huh.
So I have a question about meaning and being. So meaning and being has been going on, I think, for some time. And I have been listening to you a lot. I have listened to a lot of other teachers as well. Your message, I think I understand a little more now than I did before. And so in this meaning and being, I guess there is a longing for the meaning to stop, and I know there's nothing that I can do about it. Maybe I'm trying to understand how it might happen or what I could do for it. So if you could tell me something about this.
Well, I could respond to your question, but I'm not a teacher. This is not a teaching, so there wouldn't be any advice given. In fact, nothing at all is given in this meeting to anybody, because it's recognized from this point of view that there isn't anyone. There's no one listening. There may be a sense of someone who thinks they know that they're sitting there and listening to something that they can know, but in reality, that is living in the dualistic experience all the time. So if there's a meaning and a being that seems to be happening, there's nothing that can be done about that. That is what's happening. There's nothing that can be done about anything that's apparently happening. It is just apparently happening. No one is doing it. But it's interesting, when I was in that place before, then there was a sense of meaning most of the time, or selfing, or being in the reality of what I thought was real. And then there was a sudden sense of something that was beyond that reality. And what happened here was there was a sudden recognition that what was happening in the apparent story, in the real story, in the me story, in the self story, was also the beloved, was also the whole. and there wasn't any difference. So I didn't then try and fight or escape from this sense of contraction. It was just all there was. And suddenly, whole thing freed up, and there was no one. But all the time I was holding on to the idea that I shouldn't be me, or I shouldn't be a self. That was me holding on to itself. Me that wants to survive. So it'll find any way to survive in the body by saying, oh, you must get rid of me. It's really important you get rid of me, the self, because you don't want that anymore. And that's the way it links into you and holds on to you. So you can't make that happen. You can't make that realization arise, but that's what can often arise. But the sudden recognition that everything is that. Everything is nothing appearing as apparently something.
I think I have glimpses of that too sometimes, where I may be taking something personally that might be happening, and the meaning might happen, but there may be a sudden glimpse of, that too is, but then there's still like a back and forth that happens.
That's all right. That's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing right or wrong with anything. But don't hold on to that. That's important. Don't try and work this out. You will never understand what we're talking about here. This is not understandable. And so you can't work out a way of dealing with what you think is happening. All there is what's happening. There's no one.
Thank you, Tony. And I'm so happy for this lockdown because I wouldn't be able to talk to you otherwise.
Oh.
I may not be able to travel.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to let a few people in who are trying to get in, and I'm Andreas coming in hot.
Okay, is it me?
Yeah.
Hello, fine. Hi, Tony. Tony, I discussed your book, The Open Secret, with a couple of friends, and they said that the information which is written about in your book doesn't get into their brain. In other words, they seem to have a resistance to accept that it is 100% true. So my question is, if that which is written in your book is 100% true, is then everything that we heard in society or from spiritual teachers absolutely incorrect or false?
There's no such thing as truth or falseness. There is only what is. The book is what it is, and the people who read it or misinterpret it or teach the idea of a path are simply what is happening. They're not right or wrong. They're not false or true. They just are what they are.
Okay. But why then is it so difficult to accept that it is 100% true? For example, that we don't have free will and choice.
It's not difficult. So it's not difficult, it's impossible. All the time you are in the I am dream, in the dualism, you live in a split world, better, worse, higher, lower. All of those qualities arise in dualism because they're no thing appearing to be split into two. And all the time you live in that world, you can't comprehend what this is about. And this can't be understood. This is not something that can be analysed and understood. It is a sense, and in some way or other, energetically, when people hear this message, and not often they don't have to, but when they hear this message, energetically, there's a blossoming into a boundlessness out of a contracted sense. And when that apparently happens, of course it isn't a real happening because there's nothing that is real, then what can be recognized in what is communicated is to do with a sense of something being communicated, not that it's analyzed as being true or false.
Yes, thank you.
Did I speak to you on the phone the other day?
Yeah, we did, yes.
Yeah.
I have John coming in. John, get ready. And boom.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, John.
If the me is apparently doing everything to get out of dualism, and the me knows that it is completely and utterly and as you say, wonderfully futile, why can't the me stop it?
Oh, because the me is fascinated. When the me takes form as the child grows, it becomes fascinated with the idea that the me, the self, the I, don't forget the I, the self, the sense of individuality, is fascinated by the idea of its own success. It's also quite fascinated by the idea of its own failure, you may have noticed.
Yes.
And so it tries as best it can to succeed in what it sees as a real world, and it wants real success. It never will have it. It may have a little bit of it here and a little bit of it there, but in the end, in that dualistic world, it can't succeed except for a short while in a story. But the ultimate thing that it's fascinated with more than anything else and being successful with is enlightenment. I want to be enlightened. I want to be liberated.
Yeah.
And the awfulness of that is that all the time it is dualism, which me is, me, the I, the self, is dualism. It doesn't end to it, it just is dualistic. All the time it's in that split world. It could do nothing except run around a little wheel looking for something that it can find that will liberate it. But there isn't anything it can find that will liberate it, because there aren't any somethings, there's only everything. And when the me suddenly falls away or is exhausted or it suddenly evaporates, there is that which is longed for. And two things at that moment happen. One is the recognition that there never was a me, and no path, and no enlightenment, and no liberation. And the other thing that arises, which can't be described, is that all there is nothing and everything simultaneously, which is beyond knowing. And is the ultimate freedom. It is the only freedom. And it's recognized that that's all there is. That's all there ever was. Even when I was rushing around this wheel looking for some answer, even rushing around in this wheel looking for an answer was also the beloved, was also nothing and everything, apparently appearing to be rushing around in a circle.
That says a lot, because I've been running around in circles for decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and visiting places and groups and trainings and people.
Oh, yeah.
And now I just come to the conclusion that nothing works.
No, of course it can't work because there isn't anything to find. Nothing has been lost. The whole basis of teaching and workshops and paths is that you will walk along a path and you will find something at the end of the path called the benevolent void, if you like. There isn't anything. There isn't a path to walk along. There isn't anywhere. There's nowhere to go. Already, this is complete.
My audio.
Okay, I've got,
the audio was turned off. Sorry. That fits because the apparent person in dual form was doing everything to change a person feeling well into a person feeling much better, and so there was a big attempt made by the me to escape what is. And so I wanted to ask you, yeah. Why do I feel so exhausted now? And why have the people offering these groups and trainings never tell me that their offers wouldn't help?
Oh, well, they believe they will. They don't forget that a teacher is living in the dualistic world. The teacher is living in its own sense of identity, and it feels that it's found something that is satisfying for it. And so it wants to, in most cases, sincerely help other apparent individuals find what it has found. Usually that's related to some sort of process which he then teaches. But all of that is simply a temporary experience of some sort of satisfaction. And it has nothing to do with what we're talking about here at all. But it's very tempting for the seeker to attach itself to some sort of path or some sort of teacher who seems to know what they're talking about. And they probably do know what they're talking about, and that's the problem. But this is not about knowing. This is, I told you at the very beginning, this is not about knowing. It's about unknowing, sudden collapse of that which wants to know. So it's in no way is it a teaching or is it a path that can be followed. What this is saying is, look, this already is, you're sitting in it. It is this. It's this, not something else, anywhere else.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tony.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, let's go with this. It's Resolution Zooms 310. That's the name. There you go.
Tony. My name's actually Steven. I forgot to sign out of my work Zoom, but real great pleasure to be having my nothingness, sitting here with your nothingness.
Oh, sweetheart. You don't have any nothingness, but anyway, come on.
Well, Tony, I have a few questions, and I wanted to ask a good one. But you know, this notion of, I guess, this notion of, I mean, there seems to be a view being offered here, or a view. There's a view, you know, being offered, and at the same time, it seems like you're saying that what you're discussing or what you're offering can't really be practiced. I mean, with this view or way of seeing or way of perceiving, that this isn't something that can actually be practiced, that actually seeing in this certain way will actually lead to any.
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's an illumination, actually. You call it a view. It's actually just illumination from nothing. There isn't someone here talking to you with a library of knowledge which they're passing on to you. There isn't anybody sitting here at all. All that's happening is that this is nothing speaking, just as that is nothing asking a question.
Right. Okay. So with that said, I guess this notion of process, because with seeking, you know, and I'm very guilty, not guilty, but, you know, seeking has very much been part of my story. And it seems like it was part of Tony Parsons' story too. There was seeking, and it seems like there was a process. And I know you kind of seem to say that when the illumination happened with you, that seeking seemingly had nothing to do with it. Is that right? Because
Yeah.
it really seems like there is process.
The eye was a seeker running around a wheel, and then it apparently collapsed, although it was only an appearance, and there was that. But running around the wheel had nothing to do with it.
That's really hard to grasp in a way.
Yeah, of course.
Because it
For
really
anybody who's invested in seeking, it will be impossible to grasp that because you still believe that there's something you can do.
right. And I guess, well, it's not this with that urge to seeking, I guess, or a way, or an attraction to people gathered here. There's an attraction to this, right? There's sort of a resonance, and that can be said with other teachings, whatever it may be. There seems to be a resonance with that, and are you saying that's not part of the emerging nothingness?
It's what happens. Everything is nothing. Before, in seeking is nothing appearing to be a seeker. And afterwards, when there is no longer a seeker, there is still only no thing. Everything that appears is no thing appearing to be something.
It's just so clear sometimes. I have one more thing, Tony. Can you say anything about like the phenomena of suffering or states of depression, anxiety, relative to this?
No, well, there isn't anything relative to anything. All there is what seems to be happening, including depression or whatever, fear, anxiety. That is no thing arising in the form of anxiety or depression. There isn't anyone that's depressed or anxious. There's simply no thing appearing to be or arising as anxiety or depression. All the time there's somebody in the dream of being a me, a self, or an I. They feel that they are depressed or anxious because, and the reason that they think they are someone with depression is because they're being a someone and living in the dualistic world. They know they are real, and so they therefore know that the depression is real, and it must be their depression because it's real. Everything seen through the eye of the person in the dream, of the individual in the dream, is seen as real. Other people are seen as real. The chair is seen as real. The sky is seen as real. Feelings are seen as real. Thinking is seen as real, and it's owned by them. The separate individual is a very rich man. It's more difficult for a rich man to enter the kingdom. It's rich with ownership of everything that happens. It's rich with ideas and concepts about how it can overcome those ideas. And all of them are there trying to boost it and make it go on, working hard and meditating and self-inquiring and doing all those things, because it's promising them in some way or other that one day they'll find they'll find the treasure. There isn't a treasure anywhere. Everything is already the treasure.
Yeah. And that's wholeness too, right? I mean, that's seeking, that looking.
Absolutely, of course. I've just said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's no thing appearing as a seeker.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I have Travis. Here you go, Travis. Ooh, nearly. Here we go. Is that working? No. Travis, you should be there now.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Hey, Tony.
Hi, Travis.
Hi, thank you for doing this.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
That's,
It's what's happening. I didn't
yes.
choose with Claire, oh, we must go and talk to people. This is what we have to do now. It's just what's happening.
Yes.
There's no
I had
intention.
a question.
Okay, go on.
Oh, it was more of a like so I'm in the military, and obviously people, they task me with all kinds of work and stuff. So I'm trying to understand it. That's obviously just what's happening, but there's something that still, like, oh man, now I have all this work I have to do. Where does the suffering go away with that understanding of that there's an apparent other individual that's tasking this with work to do? It still seems like there's frustration there, and something that doesn't want to actually have to do the work. And so it's, even though I can understand that there's no them there, there's no apparent me within, over there, but how does that it doesn't leave the individual with peace. Well, there isn't an individual, but do you kind of understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, and I also see clearly that you're not really listening to what's being said, and that is that what is being communicated here is utterly and completely beyond any sort of understanding. So what you're describing to me with your work and that you do is a dualistic experience of the world. So you live in the dream of being a real person who has to work hard, all of that stuff. And that is the dualistic dream. And no amount of ideas about, well, this is just an appearance and it's not real. Any of those ideas are just ideas or beliefs in your head of how to solve the feeling of not enjoying what you're doing. You're still in the dream. And there's nothing that can take you out of the dream because the dream isn't real anyway. And there's no way out of it. There isn't anything that collapses. There's no such thing as liberation or enlightenment. There is simply the empty fullness, and within that empty fullness, there are apparent individuals who struggle with their lives because they don't enjoy them, and they try to look for an answer. There is no answer. There is only what is.
Wow. Okay, I get, yeah. Okay. So it's just happening. There shouldn't be a resistance to it.
Ah, no, no,
well,
here you go again. Now
yeah.
you're starting it. So you're not really listening to this. You're still coming out with ideas. Oh, well, this is only happening. There shouldn't be any resistance to it. Now you're again trying hard to be a certain way so that your life works. Forget it. Just forget it. It's not going to happen. There's something else utterly beyond any idea of you having to do anything in order to discover that all there is freedom.
Yes, yeah. Something resonates there. I see it. I can't put it into
No,
words,
I
but
can't.
yeah,
But I can't.
Thank you, Tony.
Okay, I have somebody without a name. That's nameless. Get ready, nameless. You're up.
Oh, I did not have a question. Is it me now?
Oh, you didn't have a question.
Well, no, I can. I didn't ask yet for a question, but that was really nice. The last thing you said.
Oh.
Okay.
I don't know.
Don't worry, you don't need to ask a question if you don't want to.
It's all right. You don't have to have questions. What did you have for breakfast?
No, I would only like to express that I just felt a bit checkmate. Like
Checkmate, absolutely, checkmate.
When you said you were just being, I don't know if that helped or whatever. I don't know. I'm a bit annoyed.
Yeah.
I'm annoyed.
Yeah,
I'm super
absolutely.
annoyed with myself and my own and this investment. And then you just said, like, stop it or something. Like this will never. And that just sort of, well, that's not a question, but it's I feel checkmate.
Good. Yeah. Good. Great.
Okay, someone with a question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jenny, coming in hot.
Hi, Tony. I'm from Australia, so thank you for doing this meeting. I'm up at 1 a.m, so that's good. I just wanted to ask, so quantum physics, the apparent solidity of objects at our bodies, the uncertainty principle, that if I know correctly, it's, the more accurately you can measure the speed of something, the less accurately or the less you know where it is in space and things like that. Anyway, okay. I'm just getting at so our bodies, things, the table, every object is actually not solid at all. It's just
and you can't know it.
Yeah, it just, our senses perceive it as solid, but again, I feel like, I understand that's just a function. That's just something the brain does, but it's essentially, it's unknowable. There's nothing solid. There's nothing real.
Absolutely.
Our bodies are not solid.
Nothing is real. Everything is in appearance. Everything is nothing appearing.
Yeah.
Whatever you're looking at is nothing.
And I was just watching an ant, a little tiny ant, and they go about, they just do, but there's nothing in there. They just everything, every time you watch nature, I have that sense because they're apparently doing, but there's no one in there.
No, the only thing that in the whole of this appearance that thinks it is an individual that's doing something of its own conscious free will and choice is the human being. Everything else is simply being. Is being. Trees, ants, horses, doesn't matter what it is, everything else but the human being. Uniquely, the human being has a sophisticated enough brain to abstract a sense of being an individual. That's what's unique about it. And directly that the individual of a human being arrived on the earth, and within a very short time of presuming that it was a human being, what also arrived on the earth was dualism.
Mm.
And what you see in the world today is dualism working very hard. It's sort of chaotic and so on, because, but it's only an appearance, it doesn't matter. It's the beloved appearing as dualism.
Mm.
It's only the human being that uniquely experiences being a real thing. I am a real thing.
And, you know, that arises out of that apparent contraction. And it's like that energy to claims everything, you know, grabs everything.
Try to know it.
And we're not aware of it. So it sort of misconstrues everything. Is that how the me works? You know, it misconstrues.
Well, the me works in total
distorts.
confusion, because it's working in dualism. Everything is split. So it's always trying to make everything work, and it never needs to be made to work because it already is divinely complete.
And yeah, I mean, not to, so it's negation. It's negating. No subject.
No. It's all it knows is dualism, so it reacts and responds from that. There's nothing right or wrong with that at all. It's no thing arising as a human being who believes in and invests in a dualistic world, or what it experiences as a dualistic world. You know, the individual is dualism. It doesn't enter some awful dark cave called dualism. Only it takes on the sense, I am real, I am aware, I am self-conscious, and then it becomes dualism, and it lives and tries to work in that world. And the task it puts upon itself is completely and utterly futile. The situation for the individual seeker is absolutely, wonderfully hopeless.
Which is that's freeing in a way.
Yeah. There was a woman, I was speaking in Munich years ago, and a woman was standing up talking, I always remember. And I said, at the end of our lovely conversation, I said to her, the problem for you is that your situation is absolutely hopeless. And she stood there and cried, and then she started roaring with laughter. And I talked to her brother, I think, afterwards. He said, it's just amazing. It's just a revelation. It's like watching a sudden birth of something in her.
And it, you know, I guess that apparent stopping of the me, it can happen. There's no rules in terms. It can happen any which way.
Absolutely. And never come to a meeting or hear of anything like dualism or non-dualism.
Yeah.
That's not necessary. You can be walking in the fields or playing darts and suddenly, boom.
Or even gradually, you know, like you get a sense of this.
The actual final thing is sudden because it's simply the dropping away of an illusion.
And then it's nowhere for it to come back to after that.
There never was anywhere for it to come back to in the first place.
Anyway, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have Shazir, I think. Here you go. Here you go, Shazir.
Can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you, yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Hello, Tony. Thank you for doing this. I'm grateful to be talking to you. I've watched all your videos. Basically, I'm a huge fan, you could say. So you start all your videos, you start all your talks with this is all there is, right? So, and what is happening is all there is. So I wanted to know, like in one video, I heard you saying, when you're in a lift, that's all there is. So basically, right now, even now you're saying like in your room, you're in that room and that's all there is. And you can see me through the screen, but you cannot see.
I just want to say I'm not in this room. There isn't anybody in this room and there isn't anybody in your room. There isn't anybody.
Okay, all but still, there are these sensations, right? There are these visual sensations and all these.
No, they're not mine, they're sensations.
Just sensations, right? So there are sensations of your room let's say over there, just for language purpose, and there are sensations over here. But that person cannot perceive the sensations that are over here, right?
Not at all.
Isn't that true?
Not at all. But they aren't anybody's sensations. They are
No.
just what is happening.
Okay, what is happening is that, like, for example, there are sensations of my fingers in my body, let's say, okay, or sensations of this keyboard. But there are no such sensations over there. This keyboard over here, those sensations are not over there. How can you say that this is all there is when you cannot, when this sensation is not over there? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And there isn't an over there or an over here. There isn't an over there and an over here. All there is nothing being what is. All there is empty fullness.
But how can you say that
there or here? There aren't any locations.
This is all there is when you know, you cannot, or figuratively saying, you cannot sense what is over here. Like, you cannot see my room, or
I don't need to.
Like, how can you say
there isn't anyone here that needs to. I am everything already. You are everything already. Who would need to go there to see a little bit of
no, but the difference is that you can say you can say that with so much conviction and with so much confidence, but I cannot say that, right? So where is that difference coming from?
It comes from nothing. It isn't from somebody with convictions. It comes from nothing. If it was somebody from convictions, I would suggest you turn the television off and go and play darts, because that would be ridiculous. I see a lot of teachers speaking from their own convictions, but this isn't coming from anybody's convictions. This is straight out of no thing. Just like everything is. But it's not a held knowledge or belief. It simply is a response. If you notice, if you watch this video at the end, you will notice that whenever anything's asked, the response comes straight out. Boom. It's never, don't try and work out the answer, because there isn't an answer and there's nobody here to work it out. It just comes straight out of nothing.
Especially while doing artistic things, it comes out like that. I've felt it. Yeah, I have one more question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, when you say there is no self,
be spontaneous,
yeah. Okay, for example, you keep on saying that there is no self. Then I have heard, and we basically understand the idea that there is no self, or even science explains it in some way. But even knowing that deeply, why does the illusion persist? I mean, is it like a bad habit?
No, knowing that there is no self is only another piece of knowledge. It's an understanding. It has nothing to do with the energetic shift from a contracted sense to the boundless freedom.
So is it like a bad habit due to culture?
No, sweetheart. No, it's just what you've learned and you believe in as an individual in the dualistic reality. That's all.
So does it have to do with the way we're brought up as children?
No, none of that has anything to do with this. It's just the total collapse of all of individuality and separation.
And then what are your thoughts on the idea that there is a fundamental ground of being called awareness that is
did you come in at the beginning?
No, I don't remember.
Oh, so all right. So I talked at the beginning about awareness being a function within the dualistic world. Awareness is a function of knowing. I know I am a real person. I know that's the table. So that's a function in the dualistic world of thinking that I am real and I'm living in lots of other somethings that are also real, the sky, my thoughts, whatever else. It's not seen that everything that is arising is only an appearance of no thing. It's believed and felt that everything is real through awareness. And awareness and consciousness, focused awareness and focused consciousness, go on supporting and reinforcing the sense of separation. That's all they do.
And how do you perceive space and time? Is it the same way?
There is no time. Time is an appearance. It's meaningless.
Like, you do not perceive a past, like what I
No,
did.
there's no path. Why would there be a path to that which already is? How are you going to walk down a path to that which already is when walking down the path is also what is? There isn't a path to somewhere else. There isn't anything else. There is only this.
And do you perceive a space like 3D space?
Do I foresee
Three-dimensional.
spirits?
No, three-dimensional space.
Can you repeat?
Three-dimensional. Three-dimensional. Do you perceive space as everyone else, like distance, space?
You see space.
I don't see anything. I don't see anything. There is no one here. All there is what is. Space is a measurement.
Like you don't feel the distance between one point and another?
I don't see the
Distance between one point and another?
I don't see it, but there is a distance between one thing and another. Apparent, but only apparently. It's not real. There's nothing that's real.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Richard coming in.
Hello. Oh, hi, Tony. It's Richard in Hereford.
Oh, Richard in Hereford.
Hello, Tony. How you doing?
Lovely.
Oh, great to see you.
Lovely
Great to see you.
Yeah, great to speak to you.
So, first of all, I love the paintings on the wall.
Yeah, they're good, aren't they? They're
Yeah,
friends.
beautiful.
All our paintings are by friends. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. A question, please. I've talked to you about this before, but it kind of came up when you were talking about the analogy using the rat on the, let's say the rat on the wheel, chasing like the seeker chasing for something, right? So the question is, I look at it like the Holy Trinity. There's the character, there's the personality, and there's the me. Okay, so that is it the me who's essentially doing all the drive is coming all within the me.
Yeah, a sense of separation. It's driven by its own sense of separation. When the child becomes an individual, one of the things that it feels is separate from everything. It doesn't necessarily recognize that, but it grows up in that world of separation and becomes dissatisfied with it. And that's what drives it round the wheel, looking for the end of separation. It's looking for oneness, which is the end of separation, but only intellectually. That's just a word. Well, those are just words. Yes, it's the me, the self, the I that it feels separate that wants to end the I, the separation. But unfortunately, the I, the self, and the me are all dualism. They're not dualism. They don't enter dualism. They are dualism.
It's like a strange, beautiful trap, isn't it? It's like a it's a beautiful trap. You hate it, but it's well designed.
Yeah, well designed. Yeah. Well.
But on that, you said that people look for something to get relief from the suffering, right? One of those things, it's tempting to say, is that it's tempting to come to you as you're the something, right? In order, if we hear something magical out of your mouth, right, that will affect the me here, and some idea will drop, something might shift, then it seems like such a strong pull to think that something could happen here, right? Now, even for me, I've had some glimpses, but I feel like it's like saying I've had chips. So what? Nothing. It's just, it's another thing, right? So it doesn't seem to make a difference.
Well, nothing makes a difference all the time. There's an idea that there should be.
Say that again, please. Nothing makes a difference. That
nothing can make a difference all the time. There's an idea that something needs to be different. I think
right.
I never remember.
I love that. Thank you.
All the time you're, all the time you're invested in something changing, you are a seeker trying to change something, and nothing needs changing at all. Everything is already whole. Everything is already complete.
Okay, super. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard.
Lovely. Bye.
Give us a ring sometime.
Thank you. I will. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Jackie, you're up.
Okay. Hi, Jackie. Hi, Tony. It's Jackie from Ireland.
Oh, Jackie. Yeah.
Hello, darling.
Hello, darling. I still love you.
You still love me?
Yeah.
That would be my question.
Regardless of everything.
I was gonna... And can you see me?
No.
Oh, because I put a party hat on just to be here with you.
Send me a photograph.
No. Okay, will do. Okay, I think I've come up with a question. yeah, just in, are we kind of basically alone in, you know, in the world of me?
In the world of dream.
In the world of me, no,
Yeah,
dualism,
totally,
yeah.
and not in the world of dualism. But when the dream of me being of me falls away, there isn't anything that's alone or lonely. There just is everything. There's an in-loveness with everything, but no, there is nobody in love. But all the time there's an individual, they're totally and utterly alone.
Yeah. Because I was wondering if it was just because me and my partner aren't getting on.
No.
but it does feel, I don't know, it does feel like, yeah, there's an existential kind of aloneness in it all. Yeah.
Nobody can know, no one else can know what it's like to be you. Ever, ever. And then when you fall away, it doesn't matter anymore because it's just oneness.
And it's kind of interesting, like in this meeting, like my brain won't engage at all with it. It's like it's like it's lovely to see you, but there's nothing. It's like you might as well be talking about, you know, football or something.
That's good. That's great.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good job I love you, because then that makes me want to hang out with you.
Yeah, that's very important that you love me.
Yeah. All right, darling. Cheers.
Okay, sweetie. Bye.
Oh, okay, Matthias. Matthias.
Hello, can you hear me? Here I am. Can you hear me, Tony?
Oh, I can hear you.
Oh, good. I just didn't know. So, Tony, I met you 2 years ago in Munich in 2018, I think. And the first time I came in contact with the teaching, it really struck a distant chord. And I told you about a few glimpses I had in. No,
he's gone. He's gone.
Again, here I am again.
Okay, so you had a few glimpses, you told me. Yeah.
Yeah, and then really being this very present moment and seeing everything new, a spider coming along, it was completely new. Nothing was disturbing. There was this truck running by. It all belonged to the whole thing. But then 20 minutes later, this judging me came back, and I knew I appreciated this experience. And there's a lot of resistance in the mind to accept this. But somehow I know very, very deep inside there is really no purpose. There's meaninglessness in all things we are doing. There's meaningless in all aims we have in life, because you get there and what? So what? So what? So my question actually is there any, can we do something to accelerate the energetic shift?
No, of course, come on. You know that's ridiculous. How can you, dualism, do anything about being non-dual? Although there is no such thing as non-duality. How can you, which is a part of the whole, become the whole? Whereas being a part of the whole is also wholeness. It can't be done. Not only can it not be done, but it doesn't need to be done. It never is done, because already there's only wholeness. When suddenly that which wants to do something about being whole falls away, there's a sudden, at that point, a sudden recognition that there never was anyone that wanted to fall away. There never was anything to do.
Yeah, I got
there never was a seeker.
But I wonder if one can loosen up the resistance of the mind, like contempt. Like I've been involved for many years in Buddhism, being in the teaching. I've even been, for many years I've been a Buddhist monk in Thailand even, and doing all the learning about suffering and learning about impermanence. And there's a similarity to your communication.
No, there isn't. No, there isn't.
Not at all. Like talking about that there is impermanence, nothing really is stable. There is no me, there is no self, what Buddhism also teaches in a way.
There are some things that are said in Buddhism which are similar to what I'm saying. Except in the end, in the end, Buddhism is a teaching leading to a goal.
Right. So one only have to, well, I have to do nothing, just live one's life, and then this energetic shift will happen one day, maybe.
Well, maybe, but there isn't any. You can't choose. You can't choose to live in a certain way because there is no one there that's real, and there is no real choice or free will. So living in a certain way is what will happen, and the falling away of the sense of separation may or may not happen in that living body, but at the point of death, when the brain ceases to function, it's all over. And then it'll be recognized at that moment, at that point of the brain ceasing to function, that there never was anybody to die. But by then, it's too late to tell anybody else. And you can't tell anybody else because you can't, just as I can't, describe what oneness is like.
Yeah.
I died and I can't tell you what oneness is like.
Yeah.
It can't be told. If it could be told, it could be taught. It can't be. It's impossible.
But it strikes a distant chord, and I'm very happy that I came across your communication, Tony. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Sophie.
Hello, Tony. Good to see you. Hi. One thing that keeps coming back from the message or from the communication is that nothing is happening, and this is like the one thing that is quite difficult to grasp. Not that it is grasp to be understood, yes. But is it in a way like what meant by it, that is nothing is happening because there is no me who's doing anything, like there is nothing to do, because life happens to us, there's nothing to do in that sense?
No, it is, the statement of the idea that there's nothing happening has nothing to do with there being a me or not. And it's impossible to comprehend that nothing's happening until there's no one. All the time there is someone, they believe they are happening and the life is happening and it's real. When that falls away, then people do ring me up when there is, well, the person that was a person who is no more a person, ring me up and say, Tony, I realize now, which I could never comprehend, what you meant by the statement that nothing is happening. It's absolutely obvious to no one that nothing is happening.
Wow. But did you say like it has nothing to do like if you have a me or no? That like nothing is happening, it doesn't have to do with the fact, it has nothing to do with me, no.
Except that the me can't, tries to understand the idea of nothing happening and can't. It's impossible to until there is no me trying to understand.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Meredith, here we go.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hi there. So I have a question for you about healing and healers. People who can heal others, who have some special capabilities or capacities. How does that fit in with the place that you're speaking from?
It fits in only that in the world there can arise, even in the dualistic world, there can arise somebody who has an energy of a certain quality that they can help somebody else feel. Of course, the other person feeling it it'll be their experience and not yours. But there can be a healing energy that can be apparently transferred to someone else. Even, you know, in any reality, there's energy of all kinds happening, a richness of energy, and that energy is not anybody's energy. It's just energy in the whole, which can have a certain influence which could be contracted, and another influence which can be boundless. And in the world, you could call that a healing energy. Why not? It doesn't matter.
Okay, and so, but in a particular so-called individual who might have these capabilities, it's simply energy concentrated in that so-called person.
No, they don't actually have it, but it's there.
Okay.
Nobody
Okay.
has anything.
Right. So yeah, no, but to me, this is an important distinction,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
it's the kind of thing that in a dualistic world, you look on as some special God-given talent or ability, or, I mean, I'm not speaking for myself, but just in the perception of trying to understand how can one person have such a capacity and another doesn't have
They
such
don't
a
have
capacity.
it, but the individual doesn't have it. It just so happens that within that body or within that energy, which is the person, there is a healing quality. Most people have that. Well, they don't have it, but it's there. And it's either more apparent or less apparent. But nobody has anything because there isn't anybody.
Yes, exactly. And so in some ways, even in asking the question, I already knew what you were going to say as the end result of the question. However, the getting there is interesting to me, because even to put it into language, that it's just a concentration of energy within a particular body mind, it's just a way of understanding. And a lot of times one is just looking for some way to understand the inexplicables, you know?
Yeah, I mean, what we're talking about here can't be understood.
Right.
But even when we're talking about healing, really what's being said can't be understood either. Nobody owns it. It's what apparently happens.
Exactly. And I have to say that your message to me is the ultimate consolation. And even though I know it's not even yours per se, but even just to say that we can't understand, even if our greatest compulsion is to understand, somehow peace feels very possible in these words that you share. So I thank you for that.
Okay, so the quality of what's going on here is that in the communication, and this has nothing to do with anybody at all, but this communication is in that sense healing. And the main reason that it's healing is that who it's being communicated to is not recognized as an individual. There's no recognition that anybody listening to this talk is real. There is no real individual listening to this. You aren't a real individual asking a question. But what you're asking the question and our conversation is simply an appearance out of nothing. It has nothing to do with anybody. But that conversation about the boundlessness of everything and how there's nothing right and nothing wrong is incredibly healing. It's the ultimate. The ultimate healing is there isn't anybody that needs healing.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Well, and it's wonderful to hear those words spoken out into the boundlessness. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Mike.
Hi, Tony. Nice to see you.
Hi.
I have a couple of questions. Can we say that if there is no one, nothing can be recognized?
There can be a recognition. It depends what you mean by recognition. At the point when I was someone, and then there wasn't anyone, there was a recognition that there never had been anyone. But it came like that and wasn't there anymore. So in that sense, of course, there can be recognition, but it doesn't have any great significance.
Okay, but can we recognize this message?
This
message?
No. Well, it depends. If the me is the self or the I is listening to this message, it tries to understand it, and this message can't be understood. But going back to the idea of recognition, when it was recognized that there was no Tony Parsons, then what went on moving around in the world didn't live in recognition. It was that there was no one moving around in the world. There was just an apparent world, and everything was only apparent.
Okay, thank you. Another question.
Yeah.
you talk about contracted energy, but
apparently
yeah. But is there a difference between me and fear and anxiety, and are different types of contracted energy, or are the same kind of?
It's all one.
It's all one.
It's all one. It's all nothing arising as fear or whatever, attempting to understand or whatever.
Okay, thank
you.
It's
just all no, there is only nothing. All there is nothing. Which is also, at the same time, everything. Everything is nothing, nothing is everything.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have Jocelyn.
Hi, Tony. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Jocelyn. Yeah.
Yes, Jocelyn. Yeah, I had muesli for breakfast.
Oh.
I had. Yeah. You've been
so
asking.
did I.
With banana?
Not this time, no. But before that, I had toast and marmalade. I don't know whether you know, but I'm recognised as a leading expert in Europe of the quality of marmalade. It's something I know a lot about. So every morning I have marmalade, and the best marmalade of all is the one that Claire makes. And I'm not saying that. It is the best.
Yeah, cool. But I can't tell whether you're serious about having the.
I'm not serious about anything.
No.
There is nothing serious about anything I've said so far.
Except the quality of the marmalade, of Claire's marmalade. So something came up before, sort of the irony of the not knowing, but you sound so confident.
But I don't know. I just want to be clear about it. There isn't anything here that knows anything. You're talking to unknowing.
And it sounds confident.
Well, when somebody asks a question, the response comes out of unknowing, believe it or not. The response comes out of nothing, because all there is here and there is nothing. And when somebody asks a question, the response comes out.
And when other speakers and teachers are talking, it comes out of nothing as well.
I don't know. I don't know that. That's got nothing to do with me. I know, no, it's nothing to do.
But if I'm coming out of nothing, they're coming out of nothing too.
Everything is coming out of nothing.
Everything's. That's what I mean. Everything's coming out of nothing.
Yeah, but also if there's a teaching energy, that is also nothing, and in that energy there will be something taught based on the belief, which is also nothing, that that person is real and they have found something important or precious and they want to teach other people to find the same thing. That's also nothing. But also what is nothing is that which points out and illuminates the misconception that there is someone who is real, who can find something called liberation. That's also nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I kind of get that, but you all sound so confident. So
I'm not. No, but that's what you see.
I don't mean, but I mean a lot of, yeah, that's right. So as me, I see a lot of speakers sounding confident in the same way.
Okay.
And so then all I've really got to go with is like that sort of resonance or whatever it is that's sort of different from the recognition of confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which ironically is kind of sounds like knowing. It can often sound like knowing, even though the message is not knowing.
Okay, so that's what's happening then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Apparently.
Apparently. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a young man called Joey. Fast.
I'm so sorry to take up time from other people, Tony. I really am.
Hi, Jerry. Hi.
I was
Hi.
going back and forth with Frank whether I should ask a question or not, and I said I won't ask because I'll take away time from others, and then he says, "Oh, pity."
Oh,
So I said,
there
"I'll
aren't
ask."
any others. There aren't any others.
It's something that you said to me, and something that you said earlier. It's like when you were in meing and being, and there wasn't anything that was trying to stop the meing from happening, and it's almost
there
like
was. Yeah.
it's almost like that had lifted off something that
Okay.
there's anything wrong with the meing.
No, there's nothing. Of course not. Meing is no thing.
And it's
It's the
impossible to
beloved.
stop it anyway.
Of course it is. And anyway, why would you stop it if it is the beloved?
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry to take up your time.
Lovely to talk to you, Jerry. Love you.
I have Senna.
Hi, Tony. It's Senna from Sonoma, California. There's so
Hi,
many
yeah.
questions, but they seem to have gotten answered. I think you said something about, were you talking about the me when you said that there was nothing that knows what it is to be you? Is that the me? You said something earlier when someone talked about loneliness. Is it because of the feeling of loneliness? Is that uniqueness of being a me that is lonely?
Yes, the uniquely the me, the self, the I. Don't forget this is just me. It's the self, the sense of self, the I that feels separate can also feel lonely.
Yeah, yeah. And the suffering is the me. The me is, that's probably why the me wants to get out of me, is because
The suffering is actually basically the sense of separation. The sense of separation is the basis of suffering.
yes. And one more is the owner of the me. The me is the owner of everything that kind of arises or comes.
Well, it
into
believes
being.
it. No, it believes it's the owner. It isn't, of course. There isn't anything to own. There's nothing to own. But in that experience of being a me that's real, the I, the self, it believes it owns much,
It
very
owns
much.
whatever. Yeah. So there's no owner. There's no me.
No, there's nothing to own.
Why don't you come to the States?
No.
Why don't you come to the United States?
Because this body is very old.
That's
and it's too far to fly.
Yeah,
Too
Jim,
far to fly.
I think Jim Newman said that. But you made that decision before you.
Yeah.
You don't look old.
No, well, thanks a lot. Say that again.
You don't look old.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank
and
you.
Frank too. Thank you, Frank.
Yeah, Frank. Yeah, good old Frank.
Nicholas, coming in.
Hi there. So my point really is an observation more than anything. It seems like everything is just happening in the sense that it's happening in the moment and you see it slightly afterwards.
Well, no, there isn't a moment. There is no time. Time is just an appearance, but all there is what seems to be happening.
And
it only seems, it's only an appearance.
The sense, I suppose, of something static or like a story seems to be partly because of objects, since that, so you can close your eyes and you open them and they're still there. But that is only an apparent appearance again, I should think. Is that
that only happens in the dualistic world. In the dualistic world, I am real, and when I open my eyes and look at the window, I experience the window as being real. Actually, it's just an appearance of nothing. It's nothing windowing.
I see. And so everything is one in the sense that it's just different in the forms and the names that it takes. And the emptiness of the fact of there not being a me could it be that it is just everything happening in as it happens?
Well, there isn't any, in the end, there actually isn't anything happening, but it appears to be happening.
it's nothing happening because
There's nothing happening.
because nothing really matters.
Of course, nothing matters because there is no meaning or purpose. That's the freedom. Nothing matters.
So yeah, so everything, but one isn't able to make changes or choices. It just seems to spontaneously happen. Yeah. So it's just a continuous spontaneity that has an illusory appearance of happening now or happening in the past.
Except that it's not continuous.
Right. The continuity is memory.
It's an appearance
of memory.
It appears in the brain that in the story that there was a yesterday and there'll be a tomorrow.
Yes,
and there was a yesterday, and I'm still continuing.
I see. And really, there's just what's happening now. So these words seem to be just there. There's no ownership of the words.
No.
It's just, and it sounds funny, but there's no reason to be here talking.
No, I know, isn't it awful? I think you should write to God.
Yeah, but thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Trisha.
Hi, Tony.
Hi.
Hi. I'm just sitting here thinking, when you said none of this is understandable, my question is, what would you say to me if I said, but I do understand?
Well, I would say to you, I would guess that what you understand is related to the sense of you being real and the world being real and it being understandable. That's what I would guess. Okay. You can, there is one little thing here, and that is that if you listen to this message carefully, or if you listen to this message, then the way it's going and what it's saying can be understood. If you listen to any of my introductions, the sense of what they are about can be understood, but the nature of what they're pointing to cannot be understood.
Okay. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Thank
you. Jackie, I think. Jackie, you're in again. Here you go, Jackie.
Yeah, hi. Tony, it's me again.
Well, you're not allowed to go on twice.
No, I am, Tony.
No, I'm joking. Go on, Jackie.
Just how mad it is that there's no one there. Like there's no one. You know, we're asking questions of no one with no location. It's just a body mind with spontaneous words responding to what's coming at you. I don't know.
And it's the same with you. You are nothing else.
It's funny how like I kind of get a sense of there being no one there. That the Tony form is there's no one there, but it feels another big step to get a sense of that being true here.
It's not a big step. It's not big. It's colossal.
Yeah. But
it's about your death. It's about your death.
Yeah. It's because I get there's definitely a sense of there's no control here or even identity, but there's still something that lives in the dualistic world.
Yeah.
Maybe
there's a little bit left.
Yeah, and like you say, it doesn't make any difference how big the me is. Like a big me can go just as easily as a little me. So there's no consolation in that. No. But how like with this, whatever comes out of there, it's completely meaningless, and there's no help, and there's no, like we might as well be just telling jokes or, doing something else. There's nothing meaningful about this meeting.
No, there's no value in this, just as there's no value in your joke. Yeah. There's no value.
Yeah, I think that's why somehow my brain won't really engage anymore. It's like, yeah, but still, it's nice to see you.
Yeah, and you.
All right, Dannon.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Okay, Young, you're up.
Hi, Tony. I've just read a book called The Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley. I mean, and the book starts off with the quote by William Blake, and it says, "If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite." And I've heard you so many times saying that whatever that happens is like stunning.
Yeah.
Do you have any affinities with this statement, especially about the infinity?
I don't in one way, in that there aren't any doors to polish or clean.
I see. Can you talk more about what you mean by what you sense as stunning every time?
No, I can't. It's impossible to say. And it's not, this thing doesn't walk around and get stunned every 5 minutes. It's a very gentle, Claire calls it, when you die, there's a sort of wow, or there can be, not always, but can be, wow. And as Claire says, that becomes a very gentle wow. It's livable with. But it's an in-loveness which nobody has. Nobody's in love, there's just in-loveness. And it's very gentle, it's not the in-loveness that we think of in the story. It's a gentle in-love, and everything is that, the curtain, the carpet, everything is that. Ugh.
Do you think
Sorry?
Do you think William Blake meant something similar by the word?
I think William Blake, there are touches of this in William Blake and in Aldous Huxley. There's no question for me. I used to read like mad Aldous Huxley, The Island, with the birds going now.
Yeah.
But they touch that, and there are many things that do touch this. Many things: Christian mysticism, Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, Lao Tzu, Hopong, all that lot. Somewhere they touch this, and then they move away and try and teach it, and that's the trouble. The only thing I would say is that, for me, I have never come across a teaching which you could call attempts to talk about non-dualism, although there is no such thing as non-dualism. But Lao Tzu, Longchenpa, all that lot did talk about what we're talking about here, but they always added some sort of advice for the person or some sort of teaching for the person. And I can't find anything back in those days that didn't do that. Now, what I also have to say is that very recently, there's been a communication coming out in this apparent world, which has no sort of teaching at all. It doesn't offer anything at all. It confirms that everything is utterly meaningless and without purpose, but it doesn't address itself. It doesn't address, this is important, it doesn't address itself to a person as though the person needs to learn something. That's unique and has only in the last decade arisen. And I think I get the sense that it's partly to do with something that's going on in science, although scientists are still in the story, something to do with the fact that scientists have recently discovered no thing, and they don't know what to do with it. They're trying to measure it to see what they can do with no thing. Interesting, just recently, it's been established that there is such a, sorry about it, but there is such a thing as no thing. So there's been amazing openness and discovery in the scientific world, but it's still couched and offered in terms of a story, because essentially the scientists themselves, especially in particle physics, it's very much available if you look that up on YouTube, but it's still offered from the point of view of somebody, a scientist who is a person being in a story. So it's, but there's some sort of energetic link that's going on in the last so many years that's brought about this message, which is completely and utterly impersonal and has nothing and doesn't recognize that there's a person or anything to teach. And it's a very rare communication, which in the main in the world will be ignored or dismissed as a bit of mysticism or something like that. You know, there's so many amazing people out there now, scientific, logical people, giving messages and writing commandments, and the religions are still abounding. So this communication, which is nobody's communication, is a very rare and unique communication, which will be in the main ignored or dismissed. It has to be. For me, it doesn't want to know.
Yes,
Anyway.
I haven't heard anyone else talk about this other than you and Jim Newman, who I believe he's your disciple.
No, he's not my disciple. No, God, no. I wouldn't have any disciples. How could I have a disciple? A disciple is somebody who attaches themselves and follows. Oh, you were joking. Sorry. Good. Okay.
Another question. Was there anyone that suggested this illumination to you? Obviously, there wasn't a teacher, but was there an illumination before you had the apparent liberation? Was there another apparent physical person?
No.
No.
But in some way or other, when I was younger and I was a seeker, I already had the feeling that what I was being taught by teachers was not really the answer. And I had a strong feeling that this wasn't about me learning something and trying to change something. But when I was also reading people like Longchenpa and those sort of people, Zen Buddhism, there were parts of what they were saying which rang a bell. And so it seems as though out of that suddenly I was no more.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Okay, Anita, you're up.
Hi, Tony. Good to see you.
Hi, yeah.
Hi. I'm very happy with these meetings. It's you say.
Are we losing?
There's no one.
Right, there's no one.
And this message, it's really opening my heart. So I'm very happy with that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, 1 second. I have Gabor who I'd forgotten about. Here we go. Here you go.
Hi, Tony.
Hi.
Hello, it's Gabor here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So actually, I don't have a question. I just want to express myself shortly that since this meeting has started, I'm just laughing here in my room like crazy and shouting that I love you, because it is so much to be in this, let's say, illumination. That is so much happiness going on inside. So, thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Frank, have you got anybody else?
I have 2 more.
Okay.
So
Right.
will I go ahead? Will I go ahead with the?
Yeah. Okay. Let's do 2 more and then.
Okay. So I can't remember Resolution Zoom's 310's name, but he's up.
Hi. Well, I have a question, but I also have a suggestion. I don't know if you're ever going to write any more books, but there's a rap band from LA called NWA, and they have an album called Straight Outta Compton. So I thought if you write another book, you can call it Straight Outta Nothing.
Oh, great. Okay.
My question, I have a couple little questions. I'm curious about when Tony Parsons, the apparent Tony Parsons, the day in the park you talk about in the Open Secret, when there was the kind of death of Tony Parsons, And I wonder, like, after that happened and you went home and had dinner, I mean, was there a radical shift in values, or what was apparently happening and how the life was lived, or was it just pretty much the same as usual?
Okay, it was a glimpse. I didn't have it. Nobody has glimpses. Glimpses happen and then you come back usually, not always. And then I came back, but somewhere from then on, like that first glimpse was a confirmation of something that I had a strong feeling about anyway. So there was a sort of relief in that. I still went on as a seeker and went on trying to seek. And also now I wanted to repeat what had happened before. And I thought, I believed I could. Of course I couldn't, because actually nothing did happen before in this. You can't make nothing happen. So that's what it was like.
Okay, and then the other question I have is about, there is an experience here in the past maybe 5 to 10 years of like very different energies present on the planet, and it's an apparent sort of evolution seems to be happening. And is that just what's happening, or is I just wonder if you can speak to that, because there's a lot of really different energies this one sort of experiences.
No, you're right. I'm sure there are all, the whole, as far as I'm concerned, everything is just energy. Everything. And it varies tremendously how it seems to present itself. But it's only nothing in the form of energy. And as far as evolution is concerned, evolution, like time and space, is just another appearance. It's not real. It's just nothing apparently evolving or appearing to evolve.
I have a sense sometimes of that nothing becoming more or learning more. There's a sense of that nothing learning more about itself in...
No, not at all. Nothing in these terms is not a something which learns things or has intention. In the terms that I use nothing, again, we're back to this, it's not expressible. It's empty fullness. It's everything and nothing. It's the relative absolute. It's the voidless void. It's the formless form. It can't be described, but it doesn't have any attributes or values of any kind because it is already everything. It's inconceivable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there more?
Yeah, there actually is 2 more of Ella and Damien. So Ella, I'll just put her in.
Okay.
1 sec. Here we go. Here we go. I'm unmuting and muting. 1 second, Ella. Here we go.
Hi, Tony. I'm in San Diego, and I haven't been with you for since the 1st of the century when you were here, and like this, like live. So this is lovely, and I'm so grateful to Frank for doing this.
Thank you.
Now, the first time somebody read a little bit of your book in her living room many years ago, and it just resonated immediately. And so all these years I've been, checking out, trying to keep up with you, and after you quit coming to the States. And this question, though, keeps coming back to me. And it was in one of I have some recordings of your visits to the States. And in one of them, you talked about your story, some of your story. And you said, I walked away from the Christian religion, that it held the secret, but the secret was hidden. Where is it hidden? I want to find it.
Okay, so if you want to find where it's hidden, you need to look at Christian mystics. There are some Christian mystics. I don't know of any now, but I do know there are 2 or 3 Christian mystics who, again, like Longchenpa and all those, like Lao Tzu, they talk about this in a way that obviously they're expressing what seems to be going on there but for me, they still, in the end, go on moving into some sort of advice or teaching which is directed at a person, and that's where it all falls apart for me. But somewhere, it's good to see these things, hidden in all sorts of religions. There is talk about this all over the place, especially more in the East. But it's there in some poetry and in some communications. But as I say, as long as it ends up still as a teaching directed to a person, it isn't this message.
Yes, I get that. I still, within it, because I am kind of my community and everything's kind of steeped in it, it's like I get those same glimpses, and that's where I was. I mean, it was a person in the Christian religion that was reading your book to me the first time I ever heard of you. Anyway, I love you. I thank you, and I love Frank for doing this, and thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
I have Damien.
Damien.
Here we go, Damien.
Hey.
There you go.
Tony, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. I've been into the non-duality for a few years now, and I started listening to you pretty much every night while I was going to sleep. And then after a while, this fear and panic came on. Now I was wondering what would have been the cause of that.
Well, it's very simple. All the time there's a sense of a self or an I or me. That me wants to survive. That's its whole aim, is to survive. And it'll find any way it can to survive. When there's a hearing or a sense of what's going on here in this sort of message, and that sense arises in that body, then the me will try and find any way it can to resist that message, because it knows, it recognizes that that message is pointing to its own death. So
because it actually stopped me from listening to you.
Yeah. So it worked.
Yeah.
It'll find any way it can doubt, or it'll say, oh, let's look into this deeply, but it'll mislead the seeker by suggesting to it that this is about some sort of being in the now or some rubbish like that. So it's always trying to protect itself and mislead that within which it's living, in order that it can, then it doesn't have, so that it doesn't die.
Yeah, that's what I pretty much thought. I just want to say thank you very much. It's
Okay.
about 2:40 over here in Australia, so I stayed up just to have a chat.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you everybody for listening. I just wanted to say that what we're talking about can't be understood. It can't be taken home. There's nothing you can take from this and reuse to get anywhere, because there isn't anywhere to get to. And the reason there isn't anywhere to get to is because what you long for constantly is all there is. It never came, it never went away. It is this. Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony.
Thank you.
Tony.
Frank, thank you, Tony.
It's unmuted, everybody.
Tony. Thank you so much, Tony.
Thank you.
Bye, Tony.
Thank you.
Nothing.
Tony.
How you doing?
Bye.
Love to you,
Where's this
Tony.
gone? Oh, there she is. No, she's
Tony,
gone.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Thanks a lot.
Oh, God.
Yes.